choosing a main class for the War Within, don't make the wrong choice. I'm choosing Blood Decay. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't care if it's buffed or nerfed, I don't care if it's good or bad. I like it, and that's what I play. But let's see what Bellular has to say about choosing the right class for the War Within.
The War Within is almost out, and the good news is it's got no Legion, BFA, or Shadowlands-style borrowed power, and you'll regularly find
Blood
yourself
Decay's really
getting
good. Okay,
Warband
good.
gear that you can transfer to your alts.
good.
That, plus reputations being account-wide, means that your decision of a main is less about character progress, and it's more just about your progress. Picking something that you enjoy, that fits your gameplay, fits your goals, and gives you room to grow. To grow right in today's sponsor. You know, I just feel better knowing that I'm safe and I'm getting a good deal, and that's why my sponsor...
Right, he kind of hinted at it. I would think warbands matter, because of warbands, picking the main matters less, right? Basically, your progression's carried across everything now, so it doesn't matter. You can switch it up whenever you want, but I'm still only playing my Blood Decay. That's just how I play the game. That's just how I like it.
7 flights and 5 hotels, which is a story for another time, but when doing that, I was using Nord, because the airline, hotel, and car rental prices are often dynamic based on your location. And it's kind of wild. Most people just don't know to look. You see, with Nord, you select a country and then your traffic is routed through that country. It's all super secure, and that means that you can access deals only available in other markets. And you can get around pricing algorithms that just kind of feel unfair. And then, of course, there's all the security benefits that come with using a VPN, and a lot of other handy things as well. Like, say, when a network bans you from certain types of content, well, if you just start
trying to watch porn on a train,
they'll never know. So that's just a few of the ways that they help me out regularly, and they offer so many tools. They got their VPN, their password manager, and other things as well. Their apps are super convenient to use across all the different platforms that you've got, and you can get started today at nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft. That's where you'll get 4 months for free on top of a 2-year plan, and that's all backed by the 30-day money-back guarantee. So, cheers Nord, and let's go.
There it is.
The first thing we got to do is knock down some traps and pitfalls. So, what happens in a game like WoW is the best players flock to the specs with the most mathematical potential, often, of course, using perfect stats and ideal trinkets. And what this does is it inflates the gap.
I'm just going to say one thing at the start of this video. If choosing the best class currently in the game is the only way that you believe you will be good, then you need to get good. Seriously, I've seen people play what is considered to be like the bottom tier, shit tier DPS, and like literally crank into the top 3 of a raid, and it's just because they're that damn good. So just be aware that if you're blaming your class for your shitty numbers, it's probably you, most likely. I'm just saying.
The gap between the best performance and the median, because those who want the most performance will flock to whatever spec has got the most potential, regardless of how easy it is for the average person to reach that potential. And this means that people often look at damage rankings and kind of get the wrong idea regarding a flavor of the month class that they can roll to instantly get top results, because the reality is just not like that. So here's a Mirdrasil Mythic. You can see the max, min, median, as well as upper and lower quartiles of people's damage.
This is what I'm talking about. Max, min, right? See these dots? Like, look at this range, right? Look, even a Feral Druid, right? A Feral Druid here at the bottom. That's what this is. You can't see because my little name, my image is blocking it right now. But a S tier Feral Druid can compete with a Outlaw Rogue who's you know, a little bit better than average, right? Like, they can be top tier DPS. That's what I'm saying. Like, these ranges are never so out of whack that somebody who's really good at their class can't be the top DPS in the raid, no matter where they are on this chart. They all overlap. There's just slight overages here. Okay, if you're saying the best player in the world playing Outlaw Rogue versus playing, I don't know, Destro Warlock is going to do more DPS. Okay, yeah, slightly more, but not by that much. At the end of the day, player skill is what will increase or decrease. Look at this. Marksmanship Hunter. A shitty player is going to be the worst DPS in the raid as a marksmanship hunter, and a really good player is going to be maybe the top DPS in the entire raid. Look at that range. That's what you gotta be understanding here out of this.
Take a look at Fire Mage, right?
Evoker.
It's bang in the middle.
Augmentation Evoker's at the bottom because it's really hard to track what they're actually doing for the raid. But they're better than this, For
Now,
sure.
let's say you main Fire Mage and you get skilled enough to produce upper quartile parses for Fire Mage. That's, by the way, the rightmost thick bit of the bar. If you
The
did
thick
that,
bit,
you
yeah.
would be outperforming a median Outlaw Rogue, with Outlaw Rogue actually having the highest rank there.
Right, he's kind of
So,
saying some
if
of
you
the
were to
same stuff I
Flavor of the
was.
Month roll to Outlaw, chances are you'd probably do worse than you did in Fire, because fire's something you'd actually be skilled at. So here's the simple question to always ask yourself. If I play my main excellently, will I get better results than if I swap to a Flavor of the Month class and just get average results? In most cases, you're better compounding in your own skill by continually getting better at your main, which is a
Agreed.
spec that you'll probably enjoy more anyway because you'd be picking it for the right reasons.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, wow, what a nice pause. If you really understand your class and you get to know your class intimately, you know, take your class out for dinner, maybe spend the night, nice little nightcap, smoke a cig after with your class, that kind of stuff. If you're diving that deep into your class, I think you'll really learn it to the point where you can out DPS almost anybody who's just playing Flavor of the Month fucking classes. That's the best way to play the game for me, and that's why I stick to one class for multiple expansions, because I like to just get to know it, learn how to play it, and it becomes like secondhand nature. I just know what to do. That's how I play the game.
And by the way, this is all me using mythic numbers. You see, if you bring that down to heroic, you often see totally different rankings.
Right,
Take a
everything
look at
is-
Amirdrasil Season 3 heroic, right? That's the same time frame I
Yep.
just used for mythic. Now let's say you're a Retribution Paladin and you see the median damage ranking of 20th in mythic. That could be a bit depressing. But if you did get a top quintile parse, guess what? You'd still be beating most averages.
Yep.
But if you knock the difficulty down to heroic, actually red...
Look how the mean, did you see the shift between regular and heroic? You guys notice what happens here? Yeah, the classes matter less. Everybody kind of regresses back to like a single standard where basically the good players are good and the bad players are bad and the classes matter less. That's the difference between heroic and mythic raiders, really, is that the classes just don't matter as much. And most of us, we ain't made in mythic, come on.
is rank 12. And that's because heroic parses will be more representative of the average World of Warcraft player and how they're
Yeah.
actually performing. So
Exactly.
the core lesson for you here is to pick something that you can stick with so you can get the most out of it. Do that instead of swapping to Flavor of the Month all the time, and you'll find yourself becoming a more skilled player as each patch progresses. You'll be just compounding on your own skill and experience, and then you'll be able to use flourishes, right? Use the utility in your specs kit to actually be an amazing teammate in something like a dungeon.
Right.
But there is always the question, what if my spec is dead? Dead specs then. Sometimes there are near dead specs in World of Warcraft, and the problem is we cannot call what they'll be in advance. Blizzard will be buffing and nerfing things like mad when the raid
Yeah.
rolls out. Plus,
Right.
outside of Mythic, where the differences are often quite exaggerated because those players are just so good, it's actually very rare to have, say, a pure DPS have no good option. And the same goes for
Exactly.
classes that have got 2 DPS specs. And that means the majority of you will be fine. Almost all of us will be fine. Plus, outside of Mythic Raider, the highest keys, where obviously the differences are exaggerated, it's really quite rare to have a pure DPS class have no good option within its 3 specs. And the same goes for those with 2 DPS
True.
specs. Really, the vast majority of us are going to be fine. If you want to push high Mythic Plus or be an amazing Mythic Raider, well, that spec to spec, class to class performance will matter. But then again, you're probably not watching this, which is a generalist channel for top-end advice. With that said, I now want to talk about our class rankings. Okay, the class rankings. If you want a more complete dive into each one of these, do hit up our winners and losers of
Let's
War
go,
Within
let's see
video.
'em.
But here is the TLDR. I'm going to split things into 3 buckets. First up, those that are excellent, where I feel you literally cannot go wrong unless you just happen to say not enjoy the theme. So, each of Death Knight, Paladin, Mage, and Monk are goddamn excellent, and you basically can't go wrong. Each one of these has
go,
seen meaningful
DKs.
positive change moving into this expansion. Death Knight is giving you 2 fantastic yet different DPS specs, and Blood is a real amazing tank spec. And Mage
Nice.
overall is probably the best pure DPS class in the game. Each spec is very different, they play excellently, especially the revamp done to Arcane. Then there's Paladin and Monk, which I think are the joint kings.
Paladin, not a surprise. I mean, I feel like Paladins are usually in a pretty good spot. Monk has been taking bitch slaps, and now they're finally back. Feels like we have re-entered the age of the Monk. Good for you guys who've been playing Monk this whole time.
Of hybrid gameplay in World of Warcraft. If you want to tank, heal, or DPS, each one of those has got a fantastic spec for you. And I'll especially call out the healing specs. Holy Paladin is vastly improved moving expansion to expansion, and Mistweaver Monk has had some really,
I'm happy
really
for
nice
monks.
surgical changes. So, those are 4 classes where you straight up cannot go wrong. And that brings me to the next bucket of classes. These are ones where I'll say they're good, and I don't think you'll regret them. And this time, the middle of the pack is big, and that's actually quite good news, because Blizzard have essentially done a good enough job. We've got Demon Hunter, Evoker, and Priest, which have not really seen that many changes, but do have hero talents that range from solid to, in a few cases, excellent. Shaman, though, has seen vast improvement from its once worrying place in the beta, and the same goes for Warlock. Warriors then continue to be solid. Mountain Thane I'll definitely call out as being a bunch of fun, and as for Hunters, while they haven't been fully revamped, they are significantly better than what was there before, even though their hero specs are just a little bit middling. I'd say that none of these classes are dead in terms of design, and most people will be able to find fun in any one of them.
That's good.
Next then, the bottom category, the bottom bucket of classes. These are the ones that need work, and I definitely say select these with
Hunter's
caution.
probably down
Rogue
here.
has simply not seen enough class design work. It just is completely unloved. There are loads of problems that should be solved and just haven't been. Druid, then, has seen change, but it's often been middling to bad. Balanced Druids, sorry, you guys just need the happy pills. Guardian, well, Guardian could not be more sleepy. Feral has managed to lay off its crack pipe, and thankfully Restoration is actually quite fantastic, but it just doesn't make up for the rest not really feeling that.
I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people testing out Resto Druids if they want to heal lately. I feel like every Mythic Plus run I've done lately, I feel like we're getting Resto Druids to heal it, or Shamans. Restoration Shamans or Restoration Druids, I feel like have been like, oh, people are testing healing with them.
Good. Now, it wouldn't take much to fix up these problems here. Some surgical changes could go a long way for Druid, and really it's the same with Rogue. This is just a case where they both feel unloved, and it almost to me seems like Blizzard ran out of time. That does mean that if there is anything that should be queued up for patch 11.0.7 class changes, it's probably first the Rogues and then the Druids.
Rogues don't stay down for long. They usually come back. Blizzard will fix them. They're one of the core DPS classes, right? One of the ones that have they have 3 specs that are specifically DPS based. So usually Blizzard will fix them, like Warlocks, like Mages, to have one of the specs at least be, one of the S tier specs of the game. So don't worry,
I'll
Rogues,
say right now, I would not recommend these specs unless
Same
they're
with
a
Hunter.
fantasy and gameplay that you happen to love already. That being said, I've got to imagine these are top of the list for quick class fixes when the expansion launches. So that's a bunch of classes, but what do you actually want to play? The first thing to ask yourself is, do you want
Whatever's
to tank
fun.
or heal on your main? And if so, do you want access to other roles? If tanking is the goal, then I'd probably rank them like this, with Death Knight and Monk at the top, Paladin, Warrior, and DH being good, and of course Druid as our least appealing choice. As for healers, it's actually way harder to give advice because they're all great and they mostly have different
That's good.
playstyles.
They're gonna need to be.
I mean, seriously, our winners and losers episode on healer was kind of rendered clickbait because there were no losers, which is a great sign. And that means it's about style and options. Priest is WoW's only double healer. It gives you amazing flexibility. I'd say Holy is simple and can feel powerful, while Disc does have a higher skill ceiling, but at least in my experience playing it for the last expansion, it really was a rewarding spec to play. And then there's Preservation Evoker, which is definitely a high skill ceiling pick. Some people hate it, but those who love it really do love it.
Damn, what the shit was that? What was that mechanic? This deleted the whole group. Look at everybody's health. Look at everyone's health right now.
Some people hate it.
Holy shit. How is the healer supposed to handle that? Oh my god, even Vegeta, the demon hunter, almost died. What the hell? Look at it again. Holy crap.
Some people hate it, but those who love it really do love it, and there's plenty of room
Deleted
to
the
flex your
party.
skill
What the
and
hell?
plays with it. Resto Shaman is a terrific group healer.
I've heard that some of the dungeons. Oh my god, this guy just got deleted too. Look at the tank. The tank just went full health to 0. Look at this.
Healer Mistweaver is vastly
Deleted. He must have done a mechanic wrong. There's no way that's an actual thing. They literally went 100% health to 0 health. Holy crap. I have heard that the dungeons are actually in Mythic Plus going to be more punishing in the War Within than they have been in the past. So be prepared. Guys, be prepared to get your cheeks clapped. That's what I'm saying.
improved, where basically the loss of essence font has just freed up space for the rest.
Oh, I've been seeing Kite the Mage.
Resto Druid, of course, is there if you want the hot gameplay, but it does come attached to 3 specs that I don't think are looking that good coming into this expansion. And then Paladin comes in as a real strong pick, especially if you'd rather exist in melee, and it definitely benefits from, just wholly having fantastic changes moving into this expansion. Then if DPS is your thing and you really don't want to be limited by any one spec being weak, one of the safer bets you can do is choosing a pure DPS, which would be a mage, a hunter, a warlock, or a rogue. And I say
Right.
pure just because all three of their specs are damage ones. That being said, rogues, I would say, are not a great pick because they are definitely in need of some class fixing.
And if you're gonna pick rogue, don't pick Valpera. Just saying that.
But of course,
I have
most
my
of WoW's
reasons.
classes do end up having 2 DPS specs and something else. So, of course, picking a Death Knight, Evoker, Shaman, Warrior, or Druid is, that's a good choice. These will give you access to multiple DPS specs, and that will insulate you from any one spec performing poorly, and it'll give you the flexibility to tank or heal, which can be an amazing choice if you just want faster grouping times. Now, there are, of course, a few traps that you can fall into. Say you only want to play DPS, but your class pick does have a tank or a healer attached. Some people may feel a social pressure to not DPS because perhaps the group needs a healer, and so if you're doing damage but you do have access to a healing spec, you may feel like you're holding your group back. That's the sort of thing where I can't really give you advice other than to just think about the social circumstances under which you're playing the game. With that being said, though, I want to talk about my choice of main, my choice of alt, and then Matt's choice. First, I want to play a hybrid, mostly to DPS and heal, and that for me has ended up meaning my shortlist is Paladin, Monk, Druid, Evoker, Shaman, or Priest. Now, I went Priest for most of Dragonflight. I love Disc, but I don't really enjoy Shadow that much in world content, and I think I'll be doing loads of solo delves.
How are Shadow Priests? How are Shadow Priests doing? I kind of feel like this is their expansion. You know, every expansion there's like that class that is very well themed for the expansion. Obviously with Xal'atath and everything, Shadow Priests I feel like should be S tier. Are they? I actually don't know. They're B or that's kind of sad. Maybe Midnight will be their chance to shine because I feel like they should have a point just for the sake of lore. They should have a point in one of these expansions of the World Soul Saga where like they're just S tier. Great. And Blizzard's done that before. I mean, Death Knights were great in Wrath of the Lich King. Monks were amazing in Mists of Pandaria. Drakthir have been pretty good in Dragonflight for the most part. Now, I know these are hero classes, but we've even had examples where like other classes have been really good at specific expansions, kind of because of the lore. You know, I could tell Blizzard bumped them up a little bit. Yeah, Demon Hunters and Legion, of course. So I hope they give Shadow Priest some time to shine. Maybe in Midnight. We'll see.
And I know I won't enjoy those in Shadow, so that's basically Priest out of the running. Druid is also out of the running. Feral's okay for me, but most of the changes seem to be unappealing. Balance seems to be in a real rough state, and I think Guardian is the most boring tank in the game.
Damn.
Resto is solid, but that's just not enough, so sorry Druid, you're out of the running. Now, Evoker would almost tempt me because of how cool some of its hero talents are, but I just don't really care for the Drakthir, and I do prefer melee over ranged. That leaves me with Paladin, Monk, and Shaman. Each one of those are at the very least fantastic, by the way. They've all seen positive changes. Shaman does lose out, though, and that's mostly because
That's
I
sad.
don't enjoy range casters as much, and yes, enhancement is great, but the other DPSs and the rest of my shortlist I think are preferable to it, at least for me, though of course Resto Shaman is really tempting. It's quite fantastic. Now, Monk versus Paladin is an absurdly hard choice. Each one is a terrific version of itself, but for me,
That's good.
Paladin edges out. I just prefer the look and feel of Paladin. I think the transmog side of it is fun, and yeah, I know for a lot of people that's not game mechanics, that's not numbers, but it does matter to me. It's part of the gameplay
matters.
experience. I also enjoy the open world and delve utility of the Paladin, and Ret just to me feels real punchy. That being said, Mistweaver is super alluring. Some of its changes have been fantastic, but I have been won over by the removal of Glimmer and the rework of things in Holy that just have Holy actually apparently being one of the best versions of itself ever. That's kind of exciting. And then there's alts, which are easily one of the expansion's best things. Now, Paladin will scratch my itch for healer and tank, so I'd probably go pure DPS with an alt. My first pick is Hunter, and that's just down to personal bias, because Hunter was my longtime main, and it seriously is looking quite a bit better in this expansion, mostly because of marksmanship and survival. My next one would be Mage, and that's purely because...
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, Hunters can now tame like a bunch of bosses. Bunch of bosses from like Dazar lore and all these T-Rexes and shit. All these different bosses are now tameable for Hunters. So if you're a pet collector, hey, I mean, Hunter is probably your fetish.
Because the new Arcane is just insane. I absolutely want to be unleashing just barrages and orbs at entire dungeons worth of mobs. That looks really fun. Now, I also asked Matt on our team. Of course,
There have been ones that were able to tame Sick Breed, but there's some others that weren't. For one, Razan, I think now is tameable, and he wasn't before. Just
Rights
saying.
for loads of our videos. You'll also know
just
him
an
from our
article
live
about
stream
it.
that we do on Mondays. Now, Matt has made the shift from Druid to Death Knight, and for simple reasons. Druid stonks are big time down, Blood Death Knight is a terrifically fun spec, and Unholy changes make it enjoyable for him, and he also likes Frost. Plus, Riders of the Apocalypse is probably the
Badass.
coolest hero tree. I
Yeah,
mean, you get
badass.
mounted combat in the open world, and backup from the Four Horsemen. That being said, Warrior was a close second for him, but both Arms and Fury are just a tad under Unholy and Frost. And then, in terms of fun, the high skill ceiling of Blood ended up carrying the day for him. So now you know me and Matt's picks, as well as how I actually think about choosing a main. If you'd like to check out a little bit more, then there's Matt's guide to picking a spec that you'll truly love over on our site, bellular.games. And if you want to keep on watching videos, here is our big chunky video going through every class in the game. It rocks. So I'll see you over there, and I hope you found today's video useful.
Good. I think Bellular kind of got the same message across that I did. Look at that dark mode. Basically, pick what you like, man. Pick what you like. Don't be chasing the meta, because that shit's going to change. And also don't be chasing the meta, because if you're good, if you're legitimately good at the class you play, you have a shot at being top #1 DPS in your group at any time, no matter where you are in the chart. So there you go. Nice video from Bellular. I'll link this in the chat.